All right, so this next video is for the stem stitch. The stem stitch is has kind of a rope-like effect, and it works really great for stems. So you're gonna wanna use this for curved lines, any sort of plant foliage, things like that. It does not work very well for angles. It's a little hard to manage on an angle. So I'm going to show you how to work with that. All right, here we go. So I'm gonna come out at the beginning of my line. There are two sort of weird things to remember for the stem stitch. It can be a little bit hard to manage at first. Basically, the two tricks are that you always want to, after bringing your thread out, my thread's out right here, you always want to be putting it in the same direction. So you choose one, so in this case, I'm always going to be pulling it down. And then the second thing is, your needle is actually going to be facing the threads that are facing the direction that you came from. So the stitches that we've learned up until now, you're stitching this way where your needle's going into the direction you're going. With a stem stitch, your needle is always going to be facing back. Okay, so now that my thread is down and I've got my needle facing this way, oh God, I'm right-handed all of a sudden. And then I'm going to put the needle in about 3/8 of an inch, and then I'm bringing the needle up. So my entry point is about 3/8 of an inch from where the thread came out. And then I'm bringing the needle up about halfway between those 2 points. So if I can get it through the fabric, there we go. And there we go. So for my next stitch, again, I'm making sure that the thread is going down, inserting the needle about 3/8 of an inch ahead of where the thread came out, and bringing the needle out right just to the other side, right next to where that last stitch was made, and pull through. So this starts to become a bit more natural as you go along. You're going half a stitch ahead and bringing the needle out, half a stitch back. And again, as long as your your needle is going into and out of the line, your line is going to stay straight. So you start to get the rhythm. And again, keeping my thread down, pointing my needle back in space, bringing the needle out. So this is where the stitches start to get a little bit more challenging. But once you get the rhythm of it, it really starts to make sense. Okay, and then to end the stem stitch is really easy. You just bring the needle back into the fabric. So since you'll notice the beginning and the end are only one thread width and the rest of the stitch is 2 thread widths, it kind of tapers off, and that's really nice. But if you don't want it to taper off, then what I would suggest you doing, so I'm going to bring the needle out, leave the thread down, is making a tiny little half stitch. So again, my needle is always facing the direction the threads came from. So I'm going to make a little half stitch and then bring the needle out at the exact same point. So this means it's not going to taper anymore. This is going to give it a nice blunt edge. So again, keeping my thread down, bringing the needle into the fabric. The entry point of the needle is half a stitch length. The exit point of the needle is half a stitch length. So there we go. So you're taking less fabric under the needle than, let's say, the back stitch, which means that you'll have a lot less threads on the back of the fabric when you're doing this stitch. And again, I'll slow down for you. So I'm making sure that my thread is always laying out to the side. Oh geez, I got that wrong, sorry. Making sure my thread is laying over to the side, because otherwise, if I were to make a stitch with the thread over here, going in and out, then it makes a weird little funky funk. So if you accidentally do that, it's really easy to fix. All you can do is just bring your needle underneath that last stitch so that the next stitch is coming out on the other side. And then you'll notice like this, as I'm spinning, I'm kind of like, wait, where the bottom is not the bottom anymore. Just keep it consistent and you don't have to worry about where the bottom is. The bottom might turn into the top. And that is fine. And you'll notice as I'm getting to this tinier curve, it's starting to seem like the stitches are becoming a lot more obvious. So what I'm going to do to remedy that is just start making little tiny stitches. So instead of doing this full 3/8, I'm just going to do a little 1/4 of an inch. So each space behind the needle is going to be a tiny 1/8 of an inch. And that is going to give you a much tighter stitch to create these much tighter curves. And then to end this, gonna bring it in. Oh, and if you want to square this off like we did with the last one, again, you just make a little half stitch. So I'm bringing the needle out just like I have every other time. And instead of going ahead, I'm gonna bring it at the exact point that it came in. All right, there you go. That's the stem stitch.
Want to know more about designing your own embroideries? Be sure to check out my latest book, The Art of Embroidery Design, or find a little magic in your threads with my best-selling book, Mystical Stitches. You can also sign up for my totally free creative embroidery workshops, Enchanted Blooms or Mythic Creatures. Head to mixedcolor.net for more. Oh, and I think this is the point where I'm supposed to ask you to like and subscribe, I guess? I don't know. I'm new to this.